My name is Walter Briggs. I'm 67, widowed, and comfortably retired after 41 years working in state infrastructure. The kind of job nobody sees, but everyone needs. I've got one son, Daniel, and up until 5 years ago, I thought I raised him right. Then came Alicia. Beautiful, sharp-tongued, always 2 steps ahead in stilettos. The kind of woman who walks into a room like she owns the deed. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. We all grieve and grow different. But over time, it was clear she didn't marry Daniel. She married the promise of what my last name carried. Before we go deeper, hit that like, subscribe, and comment with your name and city for a shout-out in the next story. Today's goes to Ernest from Tallahassee, who said last week's revenge made him pour a victory drink. It started small. Snide remarks about my shoes, my old truck, the way I still use cash. I brushed it off. Then, one afternoon at a family barbecue, she came out with it. Loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I mean, Walter's a nice guy and all, but let's be honest, without the pension and house, what value does he even bring? She laughed. Everyone else went quiet. Daniel smiled nervously. No one defended me. I didn't say a word. I just stood there with a plate of ribs I'd grilled for her. Cold in my hands now. That night, I washed every dish alone while they sat inside, scrolling through phones, posting selfies from my porch. She'd made one mistake, though. She assumed money was the only currency I had left. She had no idea I still held the strings. The house deed, the family trust, the quiet leverage of a man underestimated. So I poured a bourbon, opened a drawer with the legal documents, and started sketching out a new kind of will. The next morning, I mowed the lawn like I always do. Kept the porch swept. Made coffee for Daniel, even though he didn't ask. I watched them pack their Range Rover. Alicia in designer shades, barking orders like she ran a firm, not a family. She didn't speak to me, not even a glance. But I watched her. She thought silence meant surrender. What she didn't know was that men like me, the kind who kept roads safe and bridges upright, we don't explode. We reinforce. After they left, I pulled out the family trust file. My wife and I created it back when Daniel was still in high school. The house, the savings, the retirement account, all tucked in clean. Until now, it was set to pass to Daniel automatically. But I still had control, and I intended to use it. I contacted my lawyer, Miriam, an old friend of mine who handled my estate paperwork after Evelyn passed. Miriam, I said, how quickly can we amend the trust? I want it ironclad. Daniel gets a share, but it goes into a protective clause. No direct access unless it's for education, housing, or emergencies. And under no condition can a spouse lay claim unless I'm deceased and approve it posthumously. She paused. What happened? I told her about the barbecue, about Alicia's remark, about how quiet the room got when I needed one voice. Miriam chuckled. She married the assets, not the man. Exactly. We filed the amendment that same week. Fully legal, airtight, enforceable under state law. I also made a note in my will. The house could only transfer to Daniel if he was living in it alone. If not, it would go to a local veterans fund. No flip, no quick cash out. 2 weeks later, Alicia started planning renovations. Wanted to modernize the kitchen in the home she didn't own. Daniel asked if I could co-sign a refinance to pull equity. I told him I'd think about it. That night, I smiled over dinner for one. She thought I was worthless without money. Soon she'd learn what value really means. By the 3rd week, Alicia's tone shifted. She started asking how I liked my coffee. This, after 6 years of pretending not to hear me say black, no sugar. She dropped compliments at dinner, even called me dad once. Awkward, rehearsed, and forced through a plastic smile. She'd found out. Not everything, but enough. Daniel must have mentioned the trust revision, or maybe she overheard one of my calls with Miriam. Either way, she realized the house wasn't hers to redecorate, refinance, or run like a showroom. That's when the performance began. She invited me to a wine tasting event. Said it would be great for bonding. I declined. She brought me a cashmere sweater the next day. Said she saw it and thought of me. I returned it. I wasn't being cruel. I was letting her marinate. The final move came quietly. I donated $25,000 from my personal savings to the Community Scholarship Fund in Evelyn's name. Public, traceable, and timed perfectly. The local paper ran a piece. Retired engineer donates to future builders, honoring his late wife's legacy. The photo showed me in front of the house. Alone, proud, steady. Alicia saw it online. That night, she slammed a drawer hard enough to rattle the wine glasses. Then came the confrontation. She cornered me while Daniel was at work. Why would you humiliate us like that? Why make it so obvious that you're cutting us out? I looked her square in the eye. You embarrassed yourself, Alicia. All I did was stop pretending you hadn't. She scoffed, tried to play the victim. You don't like me. You never have. I shrugged. I don't have to like you, but I do expect respect. And when you said I was worthless without money, you forgot who taught your husband how to balance a checkbook, who paid for his education, who built the house you now live in rent-free. She didn't respond, just walked out, lips tight, pride shaken. She finally understood. Money wasn't the weapon. I was. Daniel came by the next morning, pacing in my kitchen like a man trying to rehearse bad news. I let him fumble through it, half explaining, half apologizing for Alicia's outburst the night before. I just stirred my oatmeal and let him get it all out. Then I laid down the truth. She's not in my will, Daniel. Never was. And unless you're planning on divorcing your own backbone, she's not touching this house or a penny of the trust. He went quiet. I don't want to fight, Dad. You already did, I said calmly. You just didn't notice when you picked a side. It landed. I could see it in his eyes, shame mixed with a dawning clarity. He wasn't dumb, just distracted. Alicia had a way of turning every room into a stage. And Daniel, God help him, had been playing the loyal understudy for too long. Later that week, the real fallout began. Alicia posted a rant on Facebook, all caps, all venom. Accused me of controlling the family, of weaponizing money to punish love. She thought public opinion would protect her. But small towns have long memories. Old friends, former co-workers, even Rachel from the pharmacy, they rallied. Comments flooded in, reminding her that respect is earned, not bought. That I'd sponsored school events, repaired fences after storms, helped bury neighbors when no one else could afford the service. She'd messed with the wrong reputation. I wasn't wealthy by modern standards, but I was rich in record. People remember that. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He moved out, back into the old rental he used to hate. He came by a few days later, looking lighter, if a bit tired. You were right, he said. She made everything about the future, as long as it was hers. I just nodded. He asked if the trust could be left untouched. Not even for him. I don't want her near it. That's when I knew the lesson landed. Months passed. The seasons shifted. The leaves turned the same golden brown Evelyn used to rake in neat piles while humming Patsy Cline. Life slowed back into its old rhythm. When I thought I'd lost, when Alicia stormed in, designer heels first, and tried to turn the place in her own empire. But empires built on arrogance tend to crumble quietly. Daniel stayed in the rental. Started showing up more often, not just for check-ins, but to talk. Real talk. About life. About Mom. About the kind of man he was becoming now that the noise had cleared. He thanked me once for standing my ground. Said he didn't see it at the time, but now he got it. That was enough. Alicia, on the other hand, filed for separation when the money dried up. Claimed Daniel had changed. Truth was, he'd finally started seeing. The trust stayed untouched. The house, still mine. I had the title framed and hung it above the mantel. Not as a trophy, but a reminder. Some things are earned by grit, not greed. As for the community, well, they never forgot. I was asked to speak at the local high school's career day. One teacher said, "You've got a reputation for doing things the right way, even when no one's looking." Funny. That used to be something I thought went unnoticed. I left Alicia with nothing she could spend, no image she could twist, and no narrative she could control. And I didn't have to raise my voice once. Because respect isn't loud. It just doesn't flinch. I may not have money stacked to the ceiling, but I'm far from worthless. I've got peace, a name that holds weight, and a son who found his way back. And in the end, that's more valuable than any trust fund. If this story hit home for you, hit that like, drop your name and city for a shout out in the next story, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for sticking with me. Sometimes the quietest battles have the deepest victories.